This is The Minimum Commitment, film theory in small doses. One film, one idea, one final climb towards silence. I'm Don Lawler, film scholar, audio assassin, and someone who understands that the longer the fight continues, the more apparent death becomes. Let's get into it. If Chapter 3 turned John Wick into a myth, then Chapter 4 is about what it costs to remain one. It's the longest film in the series, the most elaborate, and in my opinion, the most beautiful, and perhaps the most tragic. This isn't a story about survival anymore. It's a story about ending, on your own terms, with your name intact. From the first frames, death isn't just present, it's formal. The film opens underground. The sound of a punch landing on a wooden post echoes in the dark. John is training, not like a man trying to win, but like someone preparing for the inevitable. And then a voice.
I am the way into the city of woe.
That quote, pulled from the poetic lines of Dante's Inferno, isn't just thematic flair. It's the path this chapter walks. A descent through layers of pain, punishment, and ultimately, release. In the film's opening scenes, John tracks down the Elder, the so-called head of the High Table, and kills him. Not for revenge, not even for strategy. That's how myth works. You strike at the top, hoping to shatter the rest. In John Wick's world, killing the head doesn't end the war. The system doesn't bleed or stagger, it replaces. One figure falls, another rises, and the machine keeps moving. In the High Table's empire, power is ritual, and death is recycled. Nothing ends. And so the question becomes not who you kill, but whether your own death can't be replaced. Does it leave a mark that the system can't ignore? Thanatology is the study of death. Not just how we die, but how we understand it, how we ritualize it, and carry its presence in our lives long before it arrives. It's about funerals and farewells, grief and legacy, and the quiet negotiations we make with time. That's the soul of Chapter 4. John Wick doesn't fear dying. He's been walking hand in hand with death since the first frame of the first film. What he fears is being forgotten and becoming meaningless. This chapter isn't a chase, it's a reckoning with the end itself. So every act of violence in this film is part of a ritual, a purification, and a confession. Each duel, each chase, each shot feels less like action and more like ceremony. This isn't just the final chapter. It's a funeral told in motion. Let's focus on the staircase near Sacré-Cœur. John climbs it alone, bloodied, breathless, surrounded by bodies and echoing gunfire. Every step upward feels heavier than the last. And then he's knocked all the way back down. The entire climb undone in seconds. He crashes to the base of the stairs, broken and spent. And then a hand reaches out. Cain, a blind assassin, once a friend, now an enemy, not by choice, but by command. The high table forced his hand. They gave him an ultimatum dressed as honor. He didn't want this. John understands that better than anyone. In their world, survival often wears the mask of betrayal. So when their paths cross, there's no hatred, only clarity. They are both men shaped by loyalty, bent by duty, and weaponized by the same invisible hand. In that small gesture, one hand extended to another, there's no malice, just recognition, an understanding born from shared weight. So together, they climb again. Not as allies, not yet as enemies, but as two men bound by a promise the world never intended them to keep. The journey toward peace is seldom traveled alone. It is often supported by those who bear your weight when you cannot. At the summit, John accepts a duel. Pistols at dawn. Rules and tradition. He's offered a chance. Win and walk away. Lose and still be free. But freedom here doesn't mean life. What matters most in this final act isn't the outcome, it's the silence. The hush between the shots. The unspoken understanding that someone has to be the last one standing, and someone else has to make that possible. John takes the bullet. Then he fires his own, not at Cain, but at the one who tried to rewrite the story. Only after that does he sit. He watches the sun rise and lets go. It's not a twist. It's a closure. As his final moments approach, John sits on the steps, bleeding, breathing, watching the morning arrive like a mercy. Chapter 4 ends as it must, not with vengeance, but with stillness. There is no obituary. Just a man, alone on cold stone, body failing beneath the weight of legend. In the end, he writes his own epitaph, not in words, but in what he refused to let them take. A name, a silence, a final shot fired by his own hand. And if we pass this way again, along these streets where the city forgets its dead, we might still feel his presence, burned into the bricks like gunpowder. That's your thought for the day. Minimum commitment, maximum meaning. See you next time. The Minimum Commitment is produced, recorded, and edited by Don Lawler. Music by Art Against Agony.